Hello, and welcome to the first in a series of professional development opportunities presented to you by the Math Department and the Division of Academics. Today's topic is planning for effective questioning in the secondary math classroom. My name is Debbie Roberts, and I'm your guide through today's presentation. I serve as a math content trainer for middle schools. You can access this presentation by using the bit.ly seen on your screen. That's bit.ly/MATHDOKSEC. Please pause your video here and use the bit.ly or the QR code seen on your screen to access the resources we will refer to during this presentation. Today's session will be divided into three sections. 1. How do our teacher resources support varying DOK levels? 2. What should we look for concerning DOK in our classrooms? And 3. How do we effectively integrate DOK into our assessments? The East Baton Rouge Parish Schools theme for this school year is Nothing is Impossible. It always seems impossible until it's done. The focus of the Division of Academics for this year is to work with administrators and teachers to improve planning by using benchmark data and effective planning strategies to improve the type and level of questions being asked in the classroom. Implementation of professional learning and development activities that are relevant to current work, and to continuously monitor program and strategy effectiveness to ensure we are reaching our benchmark goals. The Math Department's focus is to work on consistent reasoning and problem solving throughout the district. When looking at the teacher and student resources available in East Baton Rouge Parish Schools, we see that Webb's depth of knowledge is addressed throughout. Today's goal is to help you use the resources to effectively plan and engage students in varying levels of DOK. You will notice on the resources provided with this presentation that there are 4 levels to DOK. There are some things that are important to remember when planning for questioning in the classroom. DOK is a way to think about content complexity, not content difficulty. DOK is determined by the context and concept and not by the verb used. DOK 1 are those questions that require simple recall and reproduction. These questions are ones that either the students know the answer to or they don't. There's very little thinking involved with questions on this level. DOK 2 move to the how and why questions. These require students to make some decisions about how to approach a problem. Also on these charts, you'll see how these questions incorporate our mathematical practices. DOK 1 covers attention to precision and repeated reasoning, while DOK 2 helps students to make sense of problems, model with mathematics, use tools strategically, and to make sense of structure. Now we're taking our questions to a higher level. DOK 3 activities involve higher cognitive demands than the previous 2 levels. At level 3, students need to provide evidence and reasoning for the conclusions they draw. In most instances, having students explain and justify their thinking is at a level 3. Typically, level 3 activities have more than one correct answer or approach to the problem. This type of question also requires students to reason abstractly and to construct viable arguments. DOK 4 includes those tasks in which students must demonstrate reasoning, planning, and developing connections within and beyond the content area. These activities usually occur over an extended period of time and involve all 8 mathematical practices. Now let's look at DOK in action in a lesson from Eureka. For this, we'll use Grade 8, Module 3, Lesson 8. When we look at the student-facing materials, you'll see that the students are asked to do 2 things. 1, describe a sequence to map one image onto another one, and 2, state whether one figure is similar to another and to explain why or why not. This is where good planning on the teacher's part is critical. When you review the teacher materials for the lesson, you'll see many discussion questions that should be used to further students' understanding. In this lesson, the concept development and examples should be about 25 minutes long. It's important that the class walk through the entire concept development presented in the lesson and each of the examples. We all know that time is a very precious commodity, and it's very common to want to skip some of the examples in order to save time in our lessons. We strongly urge you not to do this. These examples build on each other and they lead students to a deeper understanding of the standards. In the concept development section, we find many higher level questions that lead students to understand that dilation alone is not enough to define similarity. Let's look at the questions posed to the students in this part of the lesson. The question, do these figures look similar, seems to be a DOK 1 question. However, it would be very easy to raise it a level by asking the students to explain their thinking and their reasoning. In example 1, the questions listed in the teacher's edition allow students to connect prior knowledge to determine the sequence that would map triangle A double prime, B double prime, C double prime onto triangle ABC. It's important that this entire discussion is had in order for students to develop the concept they are being presented with. In example 2, students are asked to summarize the work done in the last example and to explain the difference between this problem and the last example. This requires students to think on a higher level. Many of the questions in these examples at first glance seem like DOK 1 questions when they are actually higher level, or they can be adjusted by the teacher to make them a higher level question. In example 4, students are asked to identify the information they need to help describe the dilation of the triangle. Each of the exercises asks students to apply their knowledge to identify if figures are similar to each other. Students should be encouraged to put lots of thinking into the exercise problems. This is a great place for students to explain their thinking and to use their mathematical knowledge and vocabulary to describe the sequence needed to map one image onto the other. It's also a great place for students to listen to, comment on, and respectfully question the contributions of their classmates. This brings us to the portion of the lesson we are most likely to skip over, but is the part of the lesson that lends itself most to being able to add in higher level DOK questions. That's the closing. This is a place where students should be able to summarize their learning. What does DOK look like in the classroom? Eureka, Springboard, Dreambox, and Zern all provide opportunities for students to be exposed to all levels of DOK. When we're progressing through lessons, we should ensure that we're hitting on all components of the Tier 1 curriculum. We need to make sure that we are not removing or shortening components of the lesson, as all components are essential to students' understanding and mastery of the skills. Now that we know what DOK levels are and have looked at it in practice in a Eureka lesson, let's look at ways we can lift DOK levels. This chart gives you some ideas of things to try in the classroom. One great way of raising the DOK level is to let students do the work and the talk. Another great way to raise the DOK level is to utilize inquiry-based learning in the classroom. Some more ideas to consider. Instead of the teachers asking most of the questions, try allow students to generate questions. Instead of moving at a fast pace, provide students with wait time. Instead of providing hints, try giving non-specific hints and general strategies. And one of the most powerful ways to raise the DOK level is to anticipate student solutions instead of being surprised by their responses. In the NCTM Principles to Action, Ensuring Mathematical Success for All, we're given actions that can be done by teachers and students to pose purposeful questions. You can pause the video here and read these actions. I want to point out that most, if not all, of the student actions are actions the students need to be reminded of or that they need to be supported in doing. They need to be reminded that they are expected to explain their thinking, not just answer yes or no. They need to be reminded to carefully think about how they present their responses instead of rushing to respond quickly. They should be supported in reflecting and justifying their reasoning, not simply providing answers. And to reach the highest levels on the COMPASS rubric, students should be supported and taught to listen to, comment on, and respectfully question the contributions of their classmates. How do we effectively integrate DOK into our assessments? This year, the East Baton Rouge Parish School Math Department, in an effort to provide consistency across the district, are administering math assessments at the end of each module at every grade level. These will be given through Illuminate. Each test will hit on DOK levels 1, 2, and 3 through the lens of LEAP-like questions in the form of multi-select, tech enhanced, constructed response, multiple choice, and fluency standards. This chart, released by the Louisiana Department of Education, shows the breakdown of task types found on the LEAP test. You'll notice that DOK levels 2 and 3 are a very large part of the assessment. The ACT is made up in large part of DOK level 2 questions. This tells us that in order for our students to be successful on these standardized assessments, we must teach them to be able to work their way through higher level questioning. Thank you for joining us for this professional development opportunity. If you have any questions or if we can assist you in any way, please feel free to reach out to one of us. We hope you have a great year.